Action Research Multimedia presentation by Kaitlyn Drouillard. My problem statement. My problem statement is I want to learn more about effective classroom management techniques for the junior grades. My experience was this age group thus far has been limited to only primary grades. While some classroom management techniques are transferable throughout grade levels, I feel learning and differentiating my techniques will instill more confidence in my teaching method for this age group. Statement of research problem. What I want to learn more about is effective classroom management techniques for the junior grades of grades 4 to grade 6. In my second practicum, which is in a grade 3, I was able to incorporate some techniques, but noticed that what worked in my first practicum did not work as well and effectively in my second. In my final practicum, I may have a grade 5 or grade 6 class, and it will require tweaking to my current techniques. However, I ended up getting a grade 5 split class. I believe that gaining trust by implementing effective classroom management strategies is going to be important because effective teaching is rooted in a positive learning environment. Every group of students in a classroom are different, and classroom management techniques will work for some groups and not others. Research questions. My initial research question is, how can teachers develop effective classroom management techniques for the junior grades? The sub-questions for this topic are, how can the teacher and the students work together to implement effective classroom management in the classroom? What are some effective classroom management strategies that keep students engaged in their learning? And how does technology influence classroom management? Definitions of central and relevant terms include classroom management, which is the process of ensuring that classrooms' lessons run smoothly without disruptive behavior from students. Techniques, a way of carrying out a particular task. And effective, successful in producing a desired or intended result from teacher and students. My first annotated bibliography, the article was informative that anyone who is involved in or deals with students of various ages, such as early childhood educators, teachers candidates, principals, and guidance teachers. It is important that classroom management is defined as practices as behavioral interventions to serve as a holistic descriptor for teachers' actions and orchestrating a positive learning environment. The article was important to my study. It refers to how teachers learn classroom management practices, categories of the behavior, dealing with those behaviors, unpreparedness of students, and missed deadlines. In conclusion, the ability for teachers to organize classrooms and manage behavior of their students is critical for positive educational outcomes. For the second source, the article focused on helping teachers and teacher candidates towards managing a classroom. It is important that strong classroom organization and behavior management skills are critical for both general education and spec ed teachers. Using these effective methods will require in a more successful classroom environment for both the teachers and students. There are 4 key strategies, which include the physical arrangement of the classroom, the classroom schedule, clear classroom rules to follow, which includes the expectations of the behavior and their consequences, and 4th, the teacher-student interactions, such as peer modeling. In conclusion, teachers can identify, plan for, and implement preventative techniques to encourage positive student behavior and minimize disruptive behaviors in the classroom. This article studied the effects of primary teachers on becoming more knowledgeable, skilled, and effective in their work. It was able to capture effective, innovative methods in the classroom. Classroom management is important for developing an effective and positive learning environment. The 5 clear strategies that were able to be expressed for me in my own teaching practice include teacher as a role model, clear expectations and class rules, the importance of feedback and praise, physical classroom setup, and lesson planning. Each of the 5 strategies outlined must be custom to each grade and group of students. The modifications that would be needed are including providing extra time for tests, scribing for students, ease of transitions from one activity to another, and much more. This article was able to emphasize the importance of the teacher providing feedback and our praise against both positive and negative outcomes. What is needed to understand is that feedback needs to be set up as information or a description provided by teachers, which aims to improve student performance. It allows students to self-assess and fill in gaps where they are needed. The 3 types of feedback that were discussed are feed up, feedback, and feed forward. Feed up is directing a student towards a goal. Feedback is conveying information about a student performed in their task. And feed forward is how they should go on to the next task. There is a particular formula to giving all this type of feedback, and it's important that the teacher takes in control of that. As well, praise is equally a valuable motivator or demotivator, where praise should be given warmly and lovingly in a classroom. The article is always geared towards parents, principals, and teachers, as it gives advice between 3 different types of feedback and how to use them in a classroom. In this article, classroom management includes behavior management as being marginal traits that cannot always be distinguished, especially when the lesson is being taught. The students take part in the classroom management as a sense of belonging in the classroom, which can result in positive outcomes, which include academic motivation and a sense of emotional well-being. Effective teachers also need to recognize that students have different learning styles and that they need to plan in various and engaging ways for every type of learner. When teachers are able to keep students engaged, the classroom environment is easier to maintain at a level suited for all learners. As if students are disengaged, the classroom management becomes harder to maintain for the teacher and students in order to have a positive learning environment. The article is geared towards new teachers that are nervous about classroom management, as well as experienced teachers who are constantly learning new ways to manage their own classroom, and in addition, parents who are curious about how teachers are managing their own classes in the school. In this article, it talked about the use of technology and how it's become more popular in today's classrooms. Being in a technology environment of the 21st century, technology has adapted and changed, where computer labs are changing to smartboards and Chromebooks are becoming to iPads, as well as assistive devices and materials are used to plan lessons. There are many different types of benefits using technology. It can make learning concrete, ensure permanent learning, make students active in learning. It can decrease autonomy, provide teachers with advantage in time management, and much more. The article talked about 5 dimensions of classroom management. First, the physical organization. Second, managing the planning and programming activities. Time management, relationship layout of the classroom, and behavior arrangement. This article was one to be important because it allows educators to understand how the teaching profession has geared towards a technology-advanced learning environment. It also allows teachers to understand the various ways of how classroom management strategies adapt with the use of different techniques suited at each grade level. Literature summary. In the following slides, these are the important information that was researched. First is the importance of classroom management. As a future educator, I've always felt classroom management is important. After completing this assignment, I could see how to develop effective strategies and actions that ensure a proactive class management. When creating these classroom strategies, the teacher must recognize the unique learning styles of each learner. And classroom management is important for effective and positive learning for all students. Second is the most effective techniques. Having techniques for the classroom behavior helps both students, learning environment, and help the teacher to deliver a more effective lesson. There are a vast majority of techniques that I have used in my own placement where students were able to take part of. Having clear classroom management rules and expectations helps students become more engaged in their learning environment. There were 5 classroom management techniques that were essentials for me. First was positive, passionate mental state so the students can do a development in their own learning. Second, clear, concise expectations and consequences for behavior. Third was consistent reinforcement, feedback, and praise. Fourth is the adoption of feedback, feed up, and feed forward. And fifth was walking around the classroom, observing the behavior, and making positive student relationships happen. Next is a teacher as a role model. One of the things that is important as a teacher in the classroom is to be a role model for the students. Being an enthusiastic teacher is helping engage students to learn about a topic. We have to be a role model for these students and lead by example in order to understand the dynamics in the classroom, such as the needs of fast learners, students with special needs, and students that have difficulty in learning in a topic. Classroom management is important as it also requires the teacher to review the process and learn from the situations that can be both positive and negative. Technology in the classroom management. It is important to have a balance of technology as well as basic activities for students to understand. In this part, I have discovered that there are different dimensions where there are 4 dimensions that are important in the classroom environment. In technology, It is important that the physical organization of the classroom management, as well as a balance of this, will help students learn. My research action plan. The data sources that I have used for my research action plan include the following: student questionnaires, teacher observations, teacher conversations and discussions, and personal classroom observation journal. Triangulation, validity, and reliability. For student questionnaires, it will be given to all students that even if they struggle with questions, they will be able to ask and be able to learn from this. Classroom behaviors are often linked to academic ability, environment, and engagement, so it is important to ask questions that directly affect behavior. It is important to make sure that all students are able to adapt to this learning style and not feel afraid when asking questions, and accommodations are needed if necessary. Teacher observations are used as a way to done as a checklist, and this is done in various ways. For a personal observation classroom journal, it's through an ongoing basis of routines of student behaviors, as well as most identified through techniques that are suited for all types of learners. This is an example of a classroom assessment that would be used by the teacher. Participants in studying. For students, it would be in the junior division in my classroom in grades 4 and grade 6. The number of students will depend on the class size I have, which ranges from 20 to 32 students. For teacher observation, it would be the teachers in their own classroom and their students. A checklist will be completed during that time, and I will be able to approximately observe 2 to 3 colleagues. Personal classroom observation journal would be the teacher and students in the classroom. Anecdotal notes will be used for specific observations of students to show their needs. Ethical considerations. One ethical consideration is making sure to identify confidentiality, being not to disclose information about the individual, that they need to be honest within the questionnaire as they can hand in their paper in a separate bin before handing it to the teacher. As well, a parent letter will be sent home explaining what the questionnaire is asking, and that will be completely confidential. This will allow parents to sign a consent form to allow their students to participate in the study. It is important to also know the classroom environment, so any norms or specific behaviors that would allow the teacher to collect information to apply in the future. This is a timeline chart of the data collection process of the types of data that I will use in my research project and how often it will be collected in each of the different assessments. In closure, classroom management techniques can be used in the classroom on an ongoing basis. It is important that teachers know their students. They must understand each student's needs, strengths, and areas of improvements in order to accommodate for a positive learning environment. Classroom management strategies vary depending on what is best for students in the classroom. The teacher must ensure that the environment is inclusive and adaptive to the needs of all learners. And these are my references. Thank you.